Hi, good afternoon and good morning wherever you are in the world. My name is Martin Redmayne, Chairman of the Super Yacht Group. Welcome to the first of the CNI INCandid Conversation webinars. It's my honor to be the moderator and to hopefully create some candid conversation amongst our esteemed panel. There's obviously several webinars in the market today. We want to do something different. We've called the webinar series After the Crisis. Essentially, we all know we're in a crisis. We all know what's happening in the world. We all know that this is a nightmare situation for so many people. So what we have to do is focus on the future. We have to focus on what happens when we can get back on board. And I think that, to me, is exactly what we need to talk about over the next 2 or 3 months. We know this is not going to be forever. We also know that from listening to Marianne Danissen before, the owners are ready to get back on board. They really want to go cruising again. So these positives become the foundation of the new CNI INCandid Conversation. My job as normal is to keep the conversation flowing, bring in some interesting conversations, topics and questions. And this is a strange thing for me because normally I'm sitting in front of a load of people on a stage where I can see the body language, I can see people's expressions. This is the new territory. But I'll tell you what, this will not replace our current communication in our industry. We are a people industry. We are a human interaction industry. Everything's about body language. I cannot wait to get back into a shipyard, into a marina, or on board a yacht to see and feel and smell everything. Well, most things. So essentially, we're in a space that is different today. But let's look at this from the future and say, where are we going to be in 2 months, 3 months, maybe 4 months' time, when we have to think about what owners want to do when they get back on board and when they start talking to each other about where they're going to go cruising. So we started the series off with a preparation webinar looking at how to make sure the boat is ready, optimized, and well managed in time for the season. We've got about 7 different webinar topics we'll cover over the next 2 or 3 months, focused on all the preparatory stuff, planning, charter, shipyard activities, planning for refits, even planning for beyond the season when people may want to upgrade their yacht or change their yacht or even put their yacht on the market. So the whole series will have lots of different things to focus on. What we need to look at is exactly what's going to happen in the next 3 months. Because as I feel, we're seeing a lot more understanding, information about what's opening up, what marinas are being planned and prepared for the season, and more importantly, how the industry is prepared for when the crew can get back on board or can be prepared for the season, but more importantly, how our industry is surviving and managing this process. So enough of my introduction. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. What I have with me today is Paolo Casani in the background, who's the chief exec of Camper Nicholsons. But on screen with me is Matthias Bosse, Captain Matthias Bosse. He has been in the industry for as long as I have, pretty much, probably a bit longer maybe, running a fantastic yacht called Lady Moura, but has huge amounts of experience in terms of operational and managing and driving the major yachts in the fleet. Marianne Danissen is obviously the head of Yacht Management at Camper Nicholsons, and she's running a fairly significant fleet and has lots of insights and opinions and ideas as to how we can be better prepared for this new territory, this brave new world, as I call it. So let's see what happens. Marianne, over to you now. Tell me what's happening in your world.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us today and giving us the opportunity to talk on some very normal information of our day-to-day life since pretty much since the crisis started and confinement has made us all work from home. The yacht management division is definitely extremely busy, as you can well imagine, because not only all the activities are keeping on going, but crew, captains, owners are all asking us continuously for advice. It's definitely been what we call a challenge to make sure that we were able to answer everybody's questions, as this has never happened before. The main question that I would like to share with you is, like a lot of owners, very quickly, you have just like amongst all of us, we have the positive people and you've got the negative people, the ones who worry more, the ones who worry less. And if you own a yacht and you see this kind of situation happening, some people were maybe taking very quick decisions. The guidelines that we were passing on to our captains and owners was to basically wait out 15 days by 15 days before making drastic decisions in terms of crew, especially because some people were going into letting people go, reducing salaries, finding all sorts of different schemes which were probably way too hasty because we did not know where we were going with this crisis.
Interesting, Marianne. From my point of view, what I want to try and understand, in your world today, how has your fleet reacted to this? How has your fleet really dealt with this as individual boats? What has really become a key part of your day-to-day work?
But the key part has definitely been we had to manage. We always manage our boats in a unique way because each boat, each owner, each captain, they're all unique. And everyone has a different program and everyone has a different vision. Some are private, some are commercial, some were underway, some were in the Caribbean, some are over here in shipyards. So we have a lot of different boats in the fleet in different situations. What was really remarkable when the entire lockdown started to happen in various countries was to give them really good advice about, as good as we could with the information that we had access to in terms of the crewing, but it was all done on a case by case. So the entire team in the Yacht Management Division has done an incredible job at giving really bespoke one-to-one advice because each person is different. They come from a different country. Some people had to be repatriated in very remote places. Then the flight stopped. Then we had to go with the flow. With every person had a different treatment. So it was not a global normal way of managing a yacht. It was really bespoke and case by case.
Change to how you manage boats?
I think already managing yachts is already something very special in the sense that we offer very close and private, I would say, advice to our clients and captains. But I think the communication in this period has probably been by far more intense as it has been before, because before, you prepare the season, boats go in the shipyard, crew arrive, crew leave. It's all kind of oiled in an oiled machine. But here, dealing with the day-to-day life of the vessel, and in addition, dealing with this crisis and giving this moral support and always, I would say, the extra mile to make sure that we always find solutions. We are solution finders in the Yacht Management Division. And our team also, from a compliance point of view, has also given a lot of advice on regular basis, updated weekly. So I think we've been very close to our boats, probably closer than ever, but it was also needed because of the unusual, unprecedented crisis that we are in.
Is the most unprecedented thing ever to happen to yachting. I think what I'd like to just try and push you on something very important to me is what are you thinking about this year's season? What are you expecting?
So I don't have a crystal ball at first, but nevertheless, I do see this summer as being definitely happening. In my opinion, hopefully we will see that with the restrictions of the lockdowns loosening up, a lot of more possibilities will come to light. We're all going to learn to live differently after this crisis, that is for sure. And the social distancing will be very important. The hygiene, the wearing of special equipment, mask, and you name it, will definitely be becoming part of our lives. And we'll have to learn with it to be able to get back to work and meet again, because we can't stay at home forever. I have the strong belief that I have already a lot of owners who want to come and visit their boats in the summer. I've been in contact with a lot of local businesses in the south of France, and especially also with the private jet industry, who are already flying. They're already flying clients from one country to the next, which is for me extremely reassuring. And yesterday I was also advised that probably as soon as the lockdown will be, opening up in each country, they'll have more possibilities to fly in and out of places. So that is for me extremely reassuring. So if you want to come to your yacht and you're able to take a private jet, commercial flights will open up, as we all know, bit by bit, but I don't have enough information on that part for the time being. But the reassuring part is the private jets will be going and they'll be supporting, and they can already ask for quotes. They're already very actively busy in their world to prepare for some visitors this summer.
Give the questions now to Matthias, and I'm going to bring Paolo on screen as well so he can have a participation as well. So Matthias, from your perspective, how are you handling the current situation, and what are you doing to, on a day-to-day basis, prepare for what may be your season?
Well, planning is something very difficult these days. We are reacting rather than planning. Talking with local authorities, for instance, we learn something different every day, and not just in France, in Monaco, in Italy, Philippines, where we have crew. All this repatriation, everything is changing on a daily basis. So my role of a captain on board is, maybe I should say I have a pragmatic approach. It is more, well, what do you do on board? If you're handling maybe crisis, you have bad weather, you have whatever situation, you have this, you have that. I think what is required for me is being pragmatic. So I'll identify risks. I'll try to eliminate risk where possible. I'm trying to keep the crew safe and healthy. That was my first priority. So we basically locked down early March already, before anybody else did, before Italy did, before France did. And fortunately, we are safe and we are fine and we are healthy. Apart from that, I have to admit, nothing dramatically changed here. The crew, Lady Moura is a bit of a special vessel, as you may know. She's 30 years old, and she has been built in a way that the crew has to do maintenance to keep her in a good shape, and that's what they do. They do everyday work. They do maintenance. So for the crew, nothing much changed. Of course, they can't go ashore. That is a bit of a downside, but again, where would they want to go? They're pretty pragmatic as well, and probably a seafarer in general is much, much better prepared or equipped in this scenario like this one. So we may as well see all this as a long sea passage, and that's how I'd like to see it. I do not want to make things more dramatic than they are. They are dramatic enough. Of course, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We all would wish that we have a bit of a different scenery every now and then outside passing by, which we don't, but we will eventually. And of course, it's time to contemplate. It's time to probably refocus, think about this, think about that. And one issue I thought about yesterday, I mean, there's so many reasons to own a yacht, and every yacht owner will have his own reason. Probably these days, one reason to own a yacht, a private yacht or probably charter yacht, is a yacht can be a controlled environment. So it's probably a very safe place to be, as long as you have controlling in place. So talking about the summer, talking about next winter, talking about cruising, I mean, where could you be safer than on board your yacht, or probably a safe charter yacht? So this is, again, that for me, that's the main point. That's what I do. That's what I look after for. Have the boat ready anytime, and we are.
Yeah.
If we receive a call tomorrow, we'll sail immediately. After 1 hour, we let go and we move. We are prepared. We are stocked, provisions, fuel. We could leave immediately. The boat is in a better shape than ever because the crew has even more time to do maintenance now.
Yeah.
So as I say, I'd like to see this a bit more in a pragmatic way.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Matthias. Listen, Paolo's on screen now. So Paolo, give me your perspective on, from a corporate perspective, and also exactly what you think is the impact on CNI at the moment, and then we'll talk about other things in a second.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, I think from any crisis, there are even opportunities. So everybody of us has to look to find their own. For us, I think it's an incredible opportunity to strengthen our relationship with our clients, because being forbidden to travel, to jump on board, to flights, we have more time to talk with our clients, to share, let's say, ideas, to talk about problems, to talk about mainly solutions, which is our job mainly. As Marianne said, we are problem solver, or should be problem solver. So for us, it's something that we learn. We've been learning more during this crisis, and we would like to take with us even in the future. So to create a better community of destiny with our managed yachts. The second comment I'd like to quickly bring to the attention is Camper Nicholson is believing very much on technologies. And we took the chance of this period to, let's say, boost up our technology more than normal. And we focused time on our revolutionary yacht management accounting software, which is now operational. And it's being completely developed in-house. We are the only brokerage companies having an internal tech team made by 5 engineers, developers. The technology was built bottom up together with our clients and captains. It's a fully proprietary technology, so we do not rely on third parties' software. Sensitive data is not shared. And if somebody wishes to try and to test, we give them full access for 1 week, and we are available to give them, let's say, a personal password and access for 1 week of demo. Yeah, as I said, my experience in this period is positive, let's say. Of course, this is something that we didn't want to leave, of course. But I think we need to look the positive, let's say, part of the glass, no, in this situation. I've seen my company United working very much on, let's say, helping our clients to overcome the season and this bad season, let's say. And if your management is able and was able over these past 2 months to work full time with clients, answering questions, even some strange questions, to be honest, sometimes, is because it's a great team of people, and because behind there is a great company helping them, all united to go to the end and to solve problems for our clients.
Brilliant. Okay, listen, thanks, Paolo. I think the most important thing within this webinar is we have had so many questions submitted before the webinar and several questions coming on the right. So I'm going to bring the questions into the conversation now and bring Marianne back on screen. Is that okay, Paolo?
I'm okay. Yes, of course.
Sorry, goodbye, Paolo. Just for a minute. You can still hear us. And
yeah.
Sorry. So Marianne, when you come back, you're now back on. One of the things that's become fairly interesting in this whole list of questions is trying to make sure we give across to this audience some real case studies or advice or information they can take away to apply to their vessels. It comes down to the fact that what we're looking at now is this unprecedented situation. But someone's mentioned here, how are you finding or repatriating or managing crew movement to get the vessels back and ready for the season? To me, that's going to be one of the major headaches.
It definitely will be a major headache. That's why our advice since the beginning of the crisis to owners who were asking us for advice was stand by, do not reduce the crew, do not do anything until we see a better light from the evolving of the situation. So a lot of owners have been very kind and have waited it out, and a lot of boats still have their entire crew on board. But the problem we have had is that we couldn't do the rotation. So the people who were on rotation could not go back because there are no flights. So we've been working around it and trying to find solutions to make sure people don't accrue negative leave. So we definitely had to find solutions to still keep everyone employed. I think the main concern for any yacht manager, yacht owner, and captain, and I think Matthias will probably also comment on that, is to keep as many people employed as possible and keep the boats ready and in a good shape to go to sea whenever we will be allowed to go. And I think with the opening up of the confinement ending, hopefully, we'll see things will evolve again more, but that we'll only find out again in a couple of weeks from now. But when it comes to crew, the ones who are still on board on the boat, which are able to be operational, they're pretty much ready to go if they have to. The other ones who have let go some crew will need to hire, but it will be only local possibly, because I think flights, from what I can see this far, will be only possible within Europe and with limited numbers. So, and crew members will be able to, like for example, Nice, London, Stockholm, within Europe, we'll be able to have some movements, but the usual crew that we usually hire from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, that will not be possible for this summer. That's pretty much, I think, almost a given. But yes, and people coming from the USA, same thing, because the pandemic has started a bit later at their end. So that will have also repercussions through the summer. And as things will open up in Europe, and hopefully it all depends if there will be a second wave of cases or not, that will affect the business. But I think from a charter point of view, we'll probably be looking at last minute charters when the boats are allowed again to go to sea, and probably for the owners to join their yachts, that will also be done on a case by case. So it will be again a very bespoke way to look at each situation without jumping to conclusions today, because there is still a lot of unknown, obviously.
Understand, if you are an owner and you're thinking, let's say in late July you want to go cruising, as you quite rightly say, there will be even more change happening between now and that date. Are you as a management company getting crew contacting you saying, we are going to be ready as soon as you need us? Is there a dynamic process happening where everyone can see a light at the end of the tunnel and is planning and preparing for a season? There's some comments I've seen on the chat that says the summer season was cancelled. No one's going to go cruising. You and I don't agree on that in terms of with what they're saying, because listen, Greece, Turkey, Croatia, Italy, Italian coastline, Ibiza, Palma, they live on a tourism season, and the governments will do everything they can to open up as quickly as possible. And you're already seeing that Greece is starting to try and make it. They're saying July flights will go into Greece because they want their tourism season. So we have to be positive. This is about after the crisis, and the crisis may end in yachting terms. As I'm talking about, the COVID crisis may end in yachting terms, because we are, as Matthias says, a very safe, hygienic, decontaminated, potentially wonderful location to escape. But at the same time, we have to manage our owners' expectations this year. It won't be the same as last year. It'll be new faces, new people, almost managing to make sure it works for them as best we can. That's our job now, isn't it?
It is. It is. We'll have to react with the means we have and the information we get as it feeds in. I just saw a few questions on the side of someone asking about the crew qualification. I don't know if you want me to go into it, or if basically there is this question about crew needing to update the STCWs, and also it relates also to yachts in terms of their surveys, their certification. Of course, some boats will find that the due date of the certificates is coming nearer. So to everyone, it's very important, all the flag states, all the classification societies, you can contact them, and again, they will do on a case by case, they will give you answers. The idea is not to make our boats non-compliant. On the contrary, the compliancy has to be maintained throughout, but there'll be some acceptances and some delays being accepted for some certificates to be able to still maintain the activity. I liked your comment. Indeed, some people think the summer is over. Hey, it hasn't started yet. I'm sorry. I still want to see the sunshine, and I'm sure a lot of owners would want to use a boat this summer for the simple reason that this confinement has not just affected everybody. And where do you want to go on holiday? Matthias said it before. On a yacht, you'll be probably the safest. I saw some other information about will people wear masks and will people be keeping distances. Well, for sure, we will all learn to live with different manners and probably not hugging every 5 seconds, even if we'd like to. However, we'll take a different approach on still making our freedom of movement possible, because I think what everyone has gone through in this confinement, the freedom of movement has been taken away from us for a lot of us, in not in every country, but in a lot of countries. And it has definitely changed our way of thinking for the future. The flights for crew will come into place as these will open up. There is so much unknown, but I am totally convinced that things will happen because everybody wants the economy to start again. No one wants to sit at home forever. Everyone wants to enjoy their boats if they're ready to go. Yes, we will have a shortage of crew in some places and not the others, so we will have to juggle and adjust as we go along. So my main I would say advice is still don't rush into drastic decisions. Keep your mind open to make sure that you can still enjoy the beauty and the fun of being on board a boat, away from the danger, away from crowds. Because I don't know when restaurants are opening, for example. So your chef on board, he will be highly needed. So keep it cool.
The point is, Marianne, which is a very interesting topic of that whole restaurants and shoreside and bars and everything being, let's say, on distancing or closed down even. We have to rethink how we use the yacht this season, because there's another comment, hey, the summer season in Europe is lost. We have to almost reinforce that the summer season is not just July, August. I was talking to a yacht agent the other day, and they were saying that September, October, the weather in the Eastern Med is still spectacular. So it may be we have a different summer season, which may become, when you can get the time on board, you take the time on board. It may not be just the same as last year, so we have to rethink. The other point we came out of a conversation with a yacht agent was the fact that you're seeing that in Ibiza, in Mykonos, and other hotspots, that nightclubs and the big restaurants will be shut down because of the government imposing distancing. That's only a current directive. It may change by the summer, but we are living with a moving feast. What I'm more interested to know about, are you seeing yachts move? Are you seeing the owners say to you, right, what do I need to do this year? How can I make sure I can use my boat? Or are they being demanding, or are they being flexible in their approach to this topic?
Every time we have the conversation, we end up having a flexible view on it because we still have so many unknown patterns. I have a boat, for example, with at the moment in the shipyard, and it has already a few inquiries for charters, and they were already booked. And because they were booked for June, the captain reverted to those clients and said, oh, maybe you would like to prefer to shift them towards maybe July or August, so we will be in a better place to welcome you. And indeed, those charters said, yeah, fantastic, we'll make sure we'll come over. We still don't know how today because we don't have the means to maybe fly from that place to this one. But the charters are being postponed and not cancelled, which I think is very good news for the business and very good news for people to still want to enjoy the boat and what they had planned initially. So no, I'm very hopeful that things will develop as we go and as we get the information coming in. One of my main concerns, if I only have one, is probably the testing of people, because that is still very uncertain. For the time being, we rely on, I'm not a doctor, so I rely on medical advice and all those test kits that are being promoted. If anyone is looking at purchasing or looking at or wanting them, be extremely careful. There is a lot of fraud. There is a lot of unknown products. So be extremely cautious with what you choose.
I'd now like to ask Matthias a little question. Let's put my microphone on. Matthias, tell me about your current situation with testing.
In Monaco, in fact, there is no testing. There is testing only for those that show severe symptoms. They will be tested. Apart from that, there is no testing, which is why I have to make sure that the crew on board is healthy and we are all doing fine. So how that is going to develop, I do not know. I know that there's a couple of test kits available. Most of them, I believe, do not work properly. There's one, and we may be looking into it, which is a test that which you will have to do twice, in fact, once and then 2 days later, and you would be able to reduce the quarantine from 14 days to 2 weeks to 2 days. But again, all these things, well, I don't know. We'll have to wait for and see. I have to make sure that we are healthy on board, and then I'm sure, and we're healthy since early March.
So which kit did you say you're testing?
No test kit yet, but
you said you were testing.
We want to test the kit. Yeah. We try to order it, but of course it's quite difficult these days. There's lots of demand. But there's a test kit that is being offered to ship managers, and you do that test once, and then again after 2 days. And if there's two negative results, you're considered virus-free.
Okay.
So I believe, I'm pretty certain these things will come up, but they have to be produced, they have to be available, they have to be delivered, and all that is a bit of a challenge these days. I mean, lately we had a delivery of disinfectant coming from somewhere, and 10 liters probably. So, well, quite a significant amount, but well, we needed it. We do disinfecting of every delivery, etc., etc. The supplier was stopped on the auto route, and the disinfectant was seized, and we didn't get it because they said they needed it in hospital. So, you know, we may discuss test kits. If they are being supplied and he's stopped, they will take the test kits, and well, there I go. So it's all very fresh still, but I'm very confident that these things will develop very, very quickly. If not, well, not today, of course, but we've got April. Again, we've got April. So there's still time to produce these things and make them available. And we're not the only ones asking for them. I mean, the whole commercial shipping industry. There's hundreds of thousands of seafarers that need to be sent home. You have to have new crew replacements. Of course, there will be a solution. So I've seen some comments here on the side that saying, well, the season is gone and we should be optimistic, but realistic. This for me sounds like we need to be pessimistic. I'd rather plan for something and then cancel a day before, rather than sitting there and wait to plan, but then it's too late to plan. So, well, as Marianne rightfully said, I think we have to be optimistic, and we should be optimistic. Something always was true. The earth keeps turning, life keeps going on for most of us.
Yeah.
Let's say. So, and be pragmatic, as I say. I think rather than creating more panic and disaster mood, let's be pragmatic. Let's be pragmatic.
Yeah, Marianne, on testing, what are you doing at the moment? What do you think is your camper's solution, or is there a model you're looking at to plan for this at the moment?
Well, we're doing a lot of research with our purchasing department. And as I mentioned before, I want to be extremely cautious. So we've received a lot of different types. And before advising anyone to buy them, we have medical people who look at it before we go ahead. So that's why I'm just saying, just be cautious. I'm not offering anything at the moment to the boats unless we're 100% sure that we know how to use them and how reliable they are. We've been made aware that from the 11th of May, we'll have nurses able to do some tests on board boats. That's also possible. But then again, it's a difficult subject, because if people have been in confinement for the last 2 months, if you go and test them, if you go and test the entire crew of your boat, Matthias, I would imagine that everyone is negative because you've all been together in the same place. So where is the point in testing everyone now if we've all been, in a safe zone for now? So I think, again, that is to be handled with a lot of care and not jump into testing people because they think they might have had it. I mean, there is so much uncertainty around having the disease or not, or having had it and being what we so-call immune. I think everyone follows the news like I do, and it's still too much unknown, in my opinion, to jump into buying right now anything. So I'm still waiting it out for another, if I can, another couple of weeks before making further decisions.
Thank you. I think what is interesting from another subject matter, which I'd like to try and bring you both into, is how are the crew in lockdown and how are the crew on your fleet mentally and physically behaving at the moment?
Matthias, I think you can go first.
They did their karaoke. So,
they're in good spirits.
Yeah, no, as I on board, Lady Moura, honest, nothing much changed. We live our daily life. As I say, of all the crew, I may be the only one who would have gone out for dinner every now and then. The rest of my crew, we're not typical. I do know that and respect that. But my crew, well, there's lots of laughter. At the end of the day, I've got lots of Asian crew, as you may know. They will talk to their loved ones back home, and they will hear what's happening back home. And those crew members that would normally be sent home now, because they're due, their contract is coming to an end, they don't want to. They prefer to stay here. They're happy here. They're safe. When they go back to the Philippines, in that case, well, they will be sent to some former old rusty ferry where they have to stay for 2 weeks, staying with 20 people in one room. I mean, they'd rather be here in their bunk and in their environment that they are very familiar with. They've been here for decades in the meantime. So honestly, for me on board here, nothing much to change. In the beginning, there was a bit of shouldn't say panic, but some concerns. And of course, they're all on social media and they've been told so much and what's happening, and the virus is flying from God knows where and comes here. And it's I think we have a very normal situation right now. Things are like they are. What can we do? They do their work, they do their varnish work, they do their corrosion treatment, they do their whatever, they wash, well, they rip apart pumps, and they do their work 8 hours a day. And in the evenings, they sit and they have a drink and they talk, and then next morning, same thing.
Okay, Marianne, what are your views on your current crew's state of mind and preparedness for when things do get back?
But for the time being, the feedback I have from the boats which are in various places, either shipyards or in some ports, quite a few of them are quite lucky because they've got enough space to do some sports. So a lot of them, spend a lot of time doing sports or quizzes or games, and making sure the boat is ready, by all means. That's also part of the job. And for after, everyone is definitely looking forward to some opening of opportunities to start moving and being able to. I've got a boat in the shipyard that definitely needs to be to get the work finalized so that they can go back to sea, being relaunched. So there is even the work patterns now in the shipyard have started again. So with different procedures in place to keep the workers safe. So the captain is advised of who comes on board and when, which jobs are being done, how they finalize the paint, how do they keep the distances. So the whole organization to get the boats ready is now taken with a complete different view because of the virus. And I think that is reality. We're not going to go away from that. The virus is definitely impacting us in a serious way, and we're going to have to learn to live with it. And in that manner, I think an effort from everyone will be needed to be able to keep this social distancing, not for ourselves, but also to protect the others. So that is reality. We're going to live a different life. That's a given, in my opinion. I can't hear you.
In terms of the topics of questions we had earlier on about crew and guests wearing masks on board, that seems to be a bit far-fetched in a way that I don't think it's going to happen. What are your views?
Well, again, it will come down to when our crew asking for it. Yes, we are placing a lot of orders for masks. Yes.
So they're asking to wear masks when guests come on board.
They're not asking, they've just been ordering them. We are preparing sanitation guidance for the boats to work in correlation with the captains and see what kind of guests will come on board, do they know them from before, where have they been? So there will be a lot of background check that needs to be done before people are able to readjust with each other. So that is still on a learning curve. I don't know yet if people will be wearing masks during the whole summer on board the boats. That is still a question mark. But again,
you'd have a strange suntan.
Definitely. But I'm sure some people will feel safer to wear it naturally, and some others won't. And I think it all depends on where have they been, where have they traveled. And still the big question mark is when the guests arrive on board, how did they travel from their place to the vessel? Are they safe? Are they still healthy and not carrying anything? So that is for me still a big question mark. So that's where maybe private yachts might feel a bit more comfortable in joining their own yacht and their own crew, because they will have a known way of dealing with each other, as opposed to charter guests. For me, it's still a big uncertainty. How do you can't put them in quarantine before joining the boat. That doesn't work. So I think that still needs to be explored, but by the time we'll get there, I certainly hope solutions will be found.
And do you think, Marianne, that the topic of quarantine ashore versus quarantine on board will be tackled by the local authorities, so that actually when you do go on board, that's when your quarantine starts? Because surely that makes sense.
It comes down to personal responsibilities. Quarantine ashore or on board for the crew members, you mean?
And for guests.
That's going to be a difficult one. If you rent a yacht, you don't want to be spending extra money to do quarantine locked up in a cabin, do you?
Well, quarantine on the whole vessel.
On the whole vessel. That's another possibility. Who knows?
You have to explore that as being a solution, because the topic of how you can ring fence a yacht, going back to how clean the yacht is, how safe the yacht, the actual disinfection of a vessel and the actual isolation of a vessel, surely should be a way in which we approach it to be that's where the quarantine starts on the passerelle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still too far for me to be able to answer that.
Yeah, of course. Okay. I'm just speculating as to what we should be looking at as a solution to one of these quarantine topics, which will become, even this season, a big thing to discuss and to overcome.
I don't think we'll be able to live with a zero risk entirely. I mean, even when you and I go and do our own shopping in the supermarket, you wear your mask, you wear your gloves, you're already taking some form of risk. So the risk zero, I don't think will exist. However, minimizing it to make sure that the people on board don't get sick and that the guests don't get sick, we'll have to find different solutions for it, or hopefully by then we would have tests which will enable us to be on top of it.
Yeah.
If they test maybe 7 days before, 7 days before joining the vessel, and then a few days before boarding the vessel, would that be a proof that the person is healthy? I mean, I think we'll have to find ways to be able to have, a form to say we are healthy and we're okay to live together for a little while.
Yeah, so I think that's another part of the whole conversation, is where we can actually make sure vessels have got a clean bill of health. And the whole idea of crew having these medical passports almost to say they've got a clean bill of health. This will be one of the new things we bring into the market surely this year, that will start to make yachts much more accessible and more available. The other thing that's an interesting subject is which ports or which marinas will be safe havens within this whole scenario, where you can cruise, or when you actually can cruise in the season, where you'd recommend or where you think will be the safest places, and how that will be almost measured for the owners or for the guests. You think there'll be a measurement of safe haven or clean marina bill?
I think that will come down to local authorities and how they will handle their ports. So that will be pretty difficult to judge from this time. I think every local place will think about it if it's necessary to do something like that or not.
But I think it would make sense, wouldn't it, to sort of, for a marina to almost put itself into a situation so that when the yachts can move, they can start marketing that they've got this local authority or medical facility clean bill of health approach, because we need people to know where to go. or where to pick up guests. This is the thing we're faced with. Where can you go? Where can you pick up guests later on?
That will still need to be defined in the future, I think. It's too early. It's too early to even think about that, I think. Yeah, the local authorities you might also create discrimination if you have one port which has a clean key. I'm not sure how that would function in the whole of Europe. Matthias, your thoughts on that?
Dealing with the local authorities is very difficult. And as I said, we can't send anybody for testing. I doubt they will certify anything for us. For me, in general, the good thing about yachts is you can stay outside these marinas. You don't have to get into them. You may go at anchor. This is something, again, I think it's probably the ideal time to have a yacht. You don't have to, I mean, how can you certify that a marina, for instance, is virus-free, for instance? What is safe? Where is it safe? The good thing is with yachts, you can go to less crowded places. You don't have to be in a marina environment. You don't have to be in a port. You can anchor out and be safe naturally. This is what I would see.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think, Marianne, what we would probably expect is that more yachts will be at anchor or in much more remote locations. And I think that's what we have to plan for, a different way of operating the boats. It won't be in the popular marinas. It may be in the more remote locations or small islands or small regions of the Greek Isles, Croatia, etc. Going back to the topic of optimizing the yacht prior to the season, what else can crew and captains and owners do in this next 2 months to really make sure that things are in the best possible position? I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about technical stuff, I'm talking about planning, all the things that from an owner's perspective, that the yacht should be doing now so that they have got the optimum yacht ready for the season. What else would you recommend is happening? Or what are your yachts doing?
That's almost a trick question there.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, you know, the yachts in general are already doing an incredibly good job at preparing it in normal times. I don't think there is anything more that they can do, because already by the definition of working on a yacht and how perfection is almost an illness on board, because everything has to be so pristine and so clean and so impeccable. In that front, I don't know what else the yachts could be doing to make themselves more prepared to the situation, other than all the topics that we're all facing in the same way in terms of disinfecting, hygiene, having maybe different procedures on board for when you are touching knobs and cleaning doors. Some things might increase in terms of cleanliness, but other than that, I don't see what else could be done on top of what's already been done. They already do an incredible job already.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, from my point of view, is like, should the crew be doing something that they thought, plan for the end of the season, whenever the season starts, plan for the winter and say, okay, we should be doing a new works list, or looking at stuff that we should be actually putting into place that we've always put off. I'm trying to think of things like that from an optimization perspective.
But we have some boats, for example, who are deciding to stay in the shipyard to keep on doing the work that they were planning to do in the winter, and because they are probably not as optimistic as I am in terms of seeing the summer happening in some form. I'm not saying either that all the bays will be full of boats, because that's definitely not true. But I see some form of activity in many good ways. But some boats have decided to mothball and do shipyard work, reduce crew. These boats will keep on doing that for the rest of the year, most likely, and hoping for a better season either in the Caribbean or elsewhere, if there are better locations to go to. So that you'll have different types of boats, again, depending on where they are and what they've decided earlier in this crisis and how we come out of this. It's not going to be a busy season. We all know that because of the travel ban that we have everywhere. Let's be still realistic, but still optimistic that some activity will happen for sure.
Yeah, interesting questions coming there from Rory. I'm trying to work out whether this is something you can actually sort of share with us. How many yachts have actually let crew go as a result of the crisis? Actually, is there a number or is there a percentage you can share?
I could give a percentage based on our fleet, but it takes into account the boats where we have reduced the crew on the demand of the owners, or where people which have been let go for good, or some people being put on leave without pay, which also happens. So they're still employed and come back to the boat once travel bans are being resumed. I would say it's about a 10% ratio in our fleet, and I think we're very lucky because most owners have demanded or have questioned the crew salary issue. But again, as a management company, we've always given the same guidance: keep your crew employed. You will need them if you want to enjoy your boat. If reductions really needs to be made, make sure that they agree on something minimal. Don't impact them more than they need, because we all need each other in this time to go through it, whether if it is for the good or for the bad. We definitely need to keep people employed.
Yeah. I think it's very true. So the more people you can keep involved in the project for, let's say, stability of the actual team, the stronger the boat will be when it comes back to operation. Now, this disruption that can be caused by letting people go to save money will be a more expensive process later on.
I call it false economy.
What always is. We always see false economies in the market sometimes. So I think we need to just change a little chat. We've done 53 minutes now, so we've probably got another 5 or 10 minutes. I might bring Paolo back into the conversation in a minute. But what I'm interested to also know is in your opinion, going back to the very early part of the conversation, what will the yacht management industry do differently as a result of this crisis, do you think? What are the things that management need to do differently beyond the crisis, after the crisis?
I think it's maybe not different, but probably do better. I think the increase in communication has definitely shown a much more bespoke and a much better service, I believe, from the captains, and the feedback that I've received along those last 6 weeks. Because of the situation, we've worried about them more, and we've been closer, definitely. And they've also not hesitated to call when they had any questions or any concerns about the future. There has been a lot of communication with the office, and that has been, I think it's also positive in the months to come, because we're not out of this yet, obviously, and we'll still all learn together. And there is another subject which will impact all this, is also the environment and the good this whole quiet time has done to the nature. So watch the space, because I think we will change our way of living. That's undeniable, but hopefully for the better.
Yeah, agreed. Matthias, one last comment from you before I jump into Paolo. What advice do you give today to your fellow captains who are not on Lady Moura, but on their own, let's say, normal yachts?
Well, I'm pretty convinced that they will be seeing things just the way I do. As I say, a bit of pragmatism. There will be light visible fairly soon. I think right now what we have to do is keep crew happy, keep the boat in a good shape. I mean, there isn't much advice I can give. That we're all in the same position, whether it's a big boat or small boat, doesn't really matter. Keep the crew safe, keep the boat in a good shape. We'll tackle this, as I say. I'd like to be optimistic. As I say, I've seen so many comments here when I said before that we will be having a season, maybe not as we did in the past, but instead of going to a marina, we go at anchor. And then there's a comment, well, you can't go at anchor in France. We're middle April, and we haven't even started. All the countries are now debating how to lifting all these measures. We're just starting to do so. I very much doubt that in July, August, that yachts will be banned from anchoring somewhere. So I think what is important is that we stay positive and not be so pessimistic. I mean, this is bad enough. We shouldn't make it any worse. At the end of the day, we are all in a very good position, I feel. I mean, looking what's happening around us and elsewhere, that's what I keep saying here. We're not in a bad position. We have no reason to complain. Keep working, keep crew happy, keep crew safe, keep the boat in a good shape. It will go on, of course it will.
Yeah,
As I say, optimism, not pessimism.
Good. Thank you, Matthias. Listen, Paolo, we've got a few minutes left to sort of do any closing wrap up, because what I'm interested to know, there was a question that I received before the webinar, which was, which part of the business is going to be more directly affected by the crisis? And the crisis is almost two sides. There's a COVID viral crisis and there is a financial crisis. But in your opinion, out of management, brokerage and charter, where is the most painful part of this impact, would you say?
Well, so first of all, to me, this crisis is completely different. I saw some questions going through, let's say, while the discussions. And to me, this crisis is completely different from the 2008, 2007, 2008 ones, because this one is external to the system. The other one was internal to the system, was generated by the system. So said that, of course, this crisis has a strong impact on the economy as well, of course, but is due mainly by the psychological negative reactions, because the virus is something that nobody of us knew since, let's say, 3 months, 3 months ago. So I think will be over before than the previous one in 2007, 2008. I want to send a message that from our perspective, which is a very humble opinion, of course, because as Marianne said at the beginning of this meeting today, no one of us has the crystal ball, but we think that the Met season is not finished yet, and there will be a second part, which will be probably June, July, August. You asked me which is the most affected business by the crisis. Well, it's I would say for sure charter for a couple months, 2 3 months, and sales, because people is forbidden to travel. They cannot go on board, they cannot visit yachts, we cannot meet people, we cannot meet clients. So all things that we know very well. I think it will be over quite soon. At least we will start to see the light at the end of the tunnel quite soon. We forecast that starting from, let's say, June and July, we will probably get some last-minute charter, and there will be a great availability of yachts, because some of the charter in May, or most of the charter in May, has been cancelled. So as a consequence, we may have yachts available in June and July and August. So we think that we can restart, let's say, not a normal life, because not a normal business, because the normal business, we remember the business 6 months ago, will probably never come back. But there will be a new way to do the business, a new way to approach business, to approach relationships, to approach negotiations, and also presentations of opportunities, okay? So as I said at the beginning, technologies will be accelerate into the industry. Our industry is typically quite traditional, but technology started already to enter into the industry. And this last situation will accelerate, let's say, in my opinion, in our opinion, the use of technology in our business. Just to answer your questions, I think mainly charter and sales, less management, because in any case we have to manage yachts even though they are in shipyards or they are at anchor. But I think the crisis, we need to understand that the crisis is generated by external factors and not by internal, let's say, factors. So if you look at the economy, all the major KPIs are still quite positive. And it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of possibility to travel. It's a matter of possibilities to go on board for charter or for visits. And as soon as we can restart this, I think the business will restart again.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a fairly good closing comment, Paolo. From my perspective, the most important thing to recognise, we've all been in lockdown for X number of weeks, different parts of the world. We're still in lockdown. I'm convinced that as soon as people are able to travel again, and as soon as people are able to get on a plane and go to places like Monaco, Palma, and Mallorca, all the various yachting destinations, they will not forget about the crisis, but they'll want to be out there and be back into the marketplace. This webinar world and this world of digital communications is only one part of our future. We have to still be positive that we want to be back on board. We want to be back in restaurants and bars and sitting on a yacht, doing what we do well, which is charter, manage, sell, operate, and love yachting. So I think on that basis, the future should be positive. And I'm hoping that this is the start of a series of webinars that talk only about after the crisis in a positive, constructive, candid way. So from my point of view, until our next webinar, which I think will talk about shipyard activities or negotiations and different interesting topics, I'd like to say thank you very much for everyone's participation and comments. Thank you very much.